Hello and welcome to Talking Europe. Our guest today is Paolo Gentiloni. He is the EU Commissioner for the Economy, former Italian Prime Minister, former Italian Foreign Affairs Minister. Thank you for being with us. Welcome on the show, Mr. Gentiloni. I'd like to ask start with the first question, which is about the EU summit this Thursday. Now, the EU has unlocked a 50 billion euro support package for Ukraine over the next 4 years. Does this mean Europe is shifting gears when it comes to aid for the country?
Well, I think it was a great result, honestly. If we look to the expectations that were there, we were not even sure to reach this unanimous agreement because of the possible veto from Hungary. Now we have 50 billion for the next 4 years, which gives to Ukraine stability, predictability on their resources. But it is also, I think, a strong message for our partners in US because they are also discussing how to continue their support to Ukraine. And the fact that the EU took this decision will help, I hope, all other partners to do their part of this international support.
So you did talk about this potential Hungarian veto, and other member states really exerted maximum pressure for this deal to pass. But Viktor Orban is going to be the next rotating president of the EU Council. Is that something to be worried about, given that he has once again showed his clear support, or at least sided up with Vladimir Putin in this aid package negotiation?
I think what was clear from the results of Thursday is that at the end of the day, the European Union is stronger than its own division. Why? Because after frequently long discussions, the idea that unity prevails is the rule. Of course, you can have exceptions, but I don't think, honestly, that in 6 months of rotating presidency, nobody could disrupt the European Union. And I'm not sure that this is the real intention.
He does get to set the agenda. I mean, could he take, Ukraine off the table in some instances?
No, absolutely. The decisions are taken, as you know, by majority or unanimity of member states. So the rotating president has a role, of course, which is important, not only among head of state and government, but also the different councils gathering the different ministers. But it is a role that you can play if you enter in the role of an honest broker. Otherwise, you are not playing the role. And I think that it is in the interest of Hungary to play this role as it is needed. And there is no possibility to use this role against the EU.
The US support when it comes to Ukraine does not look as unconditional as it did a few months ago. As you know, there's an aid package which is blocked in Congress. Does the EU have the capacity to support Ukraine alone today in the years to come?
No, let me be very clear. We did our part. We were already the first economic supporter of Ukraine, also before the decision taken Thursday. And we are even more now after this decision. But overall, we need our international partners, and among them, we need the US contribution in first place. There is a difficult discussion in the Congress linking this support to other internal controversial issues. I'm sure that the Biden administration is fully committed in trying to continue the support to Ukraine, not only militarily, but also economically. Will the Congress support the administration? We will see, I think, in a few days. I am rather optimistic, but of course I know that this will be an issue also in the US electoral campaign. It will not be obvious for all parts concerned in the presidential campaign the need to support economically Ukraine.
Of course, you're in charge of the economy. I'd like to ask you another question about, what's been going on in the past week. And that, of course, is the farmers protesting across Europe, including in front of the European Parliament and in the European district in Brussels. How do you think we can get out of this crisis? I mean, what they're saying, the farmers, in a sense, is that they feel that they're being asked too much and that there is unfair dumping of agricultural produce that comes from outside the EU. How do you think the EU needs to move on this? Does the common agricultural policy need to be modified?
Well, we are referring to big part of the EU budget. More or less 30% of the EU budget is for agriculture. So it's not, we can't say that there is not an importance in Brussels for this sector. I would say first, we have to understand the reasons of the malaise among farmers. And the reasons are several. First, the fact that in Europe, prices of energy increased enormously, especially after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And this, of course, is influencing different sectors of our economies, but also agriculture. Second, there is the concern about the difficulties of the relation frequently between agriculture and the big distribution, the dynamic of prices. And third, there are also issues that are more strictly connected to the European decisions. First, trade. The concern in these months is about the imports that we have from Ukraine. I think it was the right choice to give Ukraine access without tariffs. It is a form of support to this country which is fighting for our values. At the same time, it is understandable that in some sectors these imports could be excessive and create too high difficulties to our farmers. And for this reason, we established a threshold in 2 or 3 key sectors for the imports from Ukraine. Second, there is the concern about...
No, the Mercosur trade agreement, for example. I myself was on a tractor last week with farmers, and they were telling me that they don't understand how the EU can ask for more environmental regulation and at the same time open the market, for example, to Mercosur, because that is the deal that's being negotiated right now. France has now taken a pretty clear stance saying it would oppose this deal. But obviously there are other things in game, such as, for example, the influence of Europe versus that of China in these South American countries. What is your position? Does the Mercosur deal need to go through, or is it a problem in crippling Europe's agriculture?
Well, negotiations are going on since years. I think in these negotiations we have to take into account 2 things. First, of course, we can't conclude negotiations that are damaging seriously sectors of our economy. So we have to listen to the concern that we have in some sectors, for example, agriculture. Second thing that we have to take into account is that the experience of several years that we have shows that trade agreements were in the interest of the European Union economy. Also trade agreements that were enormously discussed. Just remember, for example, the trade agreement with Canada. We had an enormous discussion on the repercussion of this trade agreement. But as a matter of fact, after a few years, we see that this was an advantage for our economy. So I think we can't go to protectionism. I understand the critics, for example, on another issue, which is the Green Deal coming from the agriculture. As you know, we took some decision to go towards the concern of farmers on the green transformation. But also here, let me be clear, we can't imagine that this transformation could exclude a fundamental sector of our economy like agriculture. So also agriculture has to do its own part in the green transformation with flexibility, graduality, and common sense. But excluding one sector from the green transformation is not possible and is unfair.
That is very much all we have time for, Mr. Gentiloni. I'd like to thank you very much for being with us and for giving us your point of view on these matters.
My pleasure.
And thank you for watching. Now, do stay with us, because this was only the first part of Talking Europe. Just after a short break, we'll be coming back with a debate recorded in Brussels with MPs about the European agriculture.